Well, I quit my job. So we're gonna try to figure out how to do this full time. But first, let's explain how we got here. About 10 years ago, I had recently graduated college and I was living in Philadelphia and I was working in the commercial photography world. During that time, I rented the third floor of a house from this guy named Mark, and Mark was a house painter and did carpentry and different restoration type projects. So he had a little shop in the basement to facilitate that. When I moved in, he graciously said, hey, I have this collection of tools down here. If you ever need to use it for anything or you want to, you're welcome to it. Just don't hurt yourself, don't cut your hand off. I did manage to almost cut off my finger. It did grow back, but don't recommend it. Mark's shop was very rudimentary. It was very small. He had a couple basic things. He had a table saw. I think there was a joiner and a router table, I believe, as well. A lot of it was kind of old and dusty, but he had the basics. When I moved in and he said that I was welcome to use the shop, it was kind of an exciting moment because I did have a background in using tools. I grew up in a house where DIYing stuff was kind of the norm. There was always something to paint, to fix, to lay tile, drywall, you name it. And then I went on to build the sets for my high school's musicals, so I learned a lot about carpentry and using tools during that time. This was kind of the first time that I had access to someone's shop like this. One of the first projects that I did was I built a coffee table. In the upstairs of the house was sort of, I think I had 2 rooms and a bathroom kind of thing that were like, that was my area of the house, and then we shared the kitchen and stuff. But I had sort of my bedroom, and then there was a little living room area, and I had this tiny little couch that actually we still have that couch, but I didn't have a coffee table. And at some point I had gotten rid of an old bed frame, I think it was, that I saved some of these pine boards from it just because it felt weird to get rid of. And one day I decided that I was going to build a coffee table out of them. And this coffee table was absolutely terrible. The thing was, I don't even think I glued it together. I think it was literally just nail gun, like nailed together. And then slowly over time, as the thing crumbled, I glued parts of it on. But at the same time, I made the stain for it out of walnuts that I picked out of the backyard, and I boiled them on the stove, which is crazy to think that I didn't use glue, but I made the stain. It was like the first furniture piece that I had done. I was building these projects and playing around in the basement when the work was kind of slow. During the winter, especially like December and January, the freelance world kind of shut down for commercial photography. So I kept myself busy by making these things in the basement, and this table was one of those projects. Once work started to pick back up, one day I was talking to James, one of the other guys that worked in the photo studio. He was a couple years younger, and I think he was even maybe the college intern. James and I got to talking and catching up since we hadn't seen each other in a while, since work was slow, and I happened to mention that I'd been playing around in the shop. He was the one that suggested I start an Instagram account. It was definitely not what Instagram is today. James was the one that suggested that there's this world where people kind of share their hobbies on a dedicated account for those things. To me at this point, like the only people I really followed were photographers, and it was their portfolios, as that's how I was using it. And then my friends from high school that were posting their lunch. There wasn't really this influencer kind of thing that was happening. I was posting a bunch of this stuff online and sharing the journey of woodworking. My friend Tim caught wind of this. He was actually one of the guys that taught me how to use tools back in the musical days, building the sets there. He was a couple years older than me, but we became friends and built a bunch of stuff together. I didn't realize it at the time, but he had gone on to start his own home remodeling and carpentry business, and was also doing some YouTube and content creation around that. Kind of jokingly, Tim said, oh, I should move back home, and he would hire me. He needed help with his carpentry business, but also could use a hand with the social media stuff. Tim just managed to catch me and I guess my wife on the right kind of day. We had both just been kicked in the teeth by life. Work was slow. My wife really didn't like her job. And so sort of defeated, we were driving to dinner one night, and I looked at her and I said, should we move? Should we move back to Pittsburgh? I mean, I have friends and family. I kind of have a job offer there. Worst case, we could sleep on someone's couch, I would think. And because she didn't really seem to like her job, and she wasn't from Philadelphia, so she wasn't too attached, she said, yeah, let's do it. Let's pack up our stuff and move. So I ended up taking this job with Tim, moved back to Pittsburgh and started working for him. And I guess it's worth noting that this job was kind of 80% hands-on tools, building things. We built furniture and built-ins and did kitchen and basement remodels. Home remodeling was really the name of the game. It was a carpentry job. And then the other 20% of the time I was doing the photos of the final projects and doing some social media posts for the business. This is the part of the story where most of you probably joined the journey and you guys know the story from here. Tim was friends with John Malecki, who most of you know. I didn't know John at this point, but when Tim and I decided to go our separate ways, I ended up getting a phone call from John. And honestly, I don't even know how he got my phone number. I assume from Tim, but John called me basically asking if I was looking for work. John and I met up. He was looking for a videographer and someone to edit the videos. I think he was around 80,000 subscribers at that point. He was doing custom furniture and just filming the process the best he could and kind of piecing together time lapses and sped up footage. He was really looking to take that to the next level and create being a YouTuber as his business. And so he was looking for my help to do that. I had a background in photography, as I mentioned earlier, but I wasn't very well versed in video editing. I knew the basics of how to run a camera, and I'd done some very rudimentary editing, so I was a little reluctant when he called. But John assured me that he was also sort of in the early stages of figuring out how to do this and was willing to figure this out together. So this is sort of the chunk, the meat and the potatoes of the story, because this is where John and I learned how to tell stories. We crafted the style of everything. He was doing a lot of voiceovers and time lapses, just that was the style at the time. We very quickly realized that the back and forth between shooting it, editing it, going back and doing a voiceover, and then editing again was just not gonna work. But also I very quickly realized that John was leaving a lot of his personality out of the videos. You guys probably all know him as a big dumb idiot that sings and dances and has no shame, but in the early days, that was all happening as soon as the camera went away. It took a while for him to be comfortable with that being part of the story. When I started working for John, he was at about 80,000 subscribers, and in the 3 or 4 years I worked for him, we were able to grow that channel to 800,000 subscribers or so, and he's well over 1 million subscribers now. While we had a lot of fun and we grew the channel to almost 800,000 subscribers, during the process of growing this channel to the point in which we did, the shop was moved across town, creating a very long commute for me. So when we moved the shop to John's current shop, at first it was really great, but it's all the way on the other side of town. So after a while, the commute just became overbearing. It was an hour plus each way, and that just, the time away from home and sitting in traffic. It was an hour of commuting through the city. It wasn't just an hour on the highway or something easy, but it was a lot. That led to me wanting to find something closer to home, spend less time in the car, be home for dinner a lot more often. I ended up reaching out to a local coffee shop who I was a big fan of. I had an interest in coffee and something I'd wanted to do for a long time. So I reached out to them actually through a Instagram DM. I sent them a message and said, hey, I don't know if you guys are hiring right now, but if you guys are in the market, I have a random set of skill sets of social media and making things that I'd love to talk if you guys need some help around the cafe. It's time for me to make a change, and I think this could be a good fit. Making the move to the coffee shop ended up being a really great thing. I really found a community there and some people and coworkers that I really loved. This was like a completely different kind of job. It was customer service, it was people forward instead of just talking to a black box by ourselves. You know, I was talking to the general public every day and sharing my love of coffee with the community. One of the other great benefits of this was all of the extra time that I had. Commute was down to only about 10 minutes each way, so all of a sudden I had about an hour, hour and a half, almost 2 hours sometimes of my day back. It afforded me the opportunity to run a race that I've wanted to race my entire life called the Leadville 100. It's a 100-mile ultramarathon race. We can talk about that in another video. I need to make a display for the belt buckle from that, and we can talk about it then. But it was with the opportunity and the free time I had working at the coffee shop, and honestly a lot of the people that I met there, that this was even possible. All that free time also led to me starting this YouTube channel, the reason you guys are here right now. This channel started with the fact that when I left John's, I didn't have any tools. I didn't have a shop, but I had this little garage and it was dark and gross, but I took the time and we painted the floor. I felt compelled to make a video about that. A bunch of you guys watched it and were supportive, and that led to building workbenches and buying tools and continuing to just share the journey of building this shop piece by piece. I think you guys really resonated with the idea of a guy in his garage trying to figure it out, not with a bunch of money and fancy stuff, but the relatable, honest story of trying to figure out how to do this. And I'm excited to say that the next chapter of this is me continuing to do just that. And we're gonna build furniture and make mistakes and buy more tools and figure out how to build a furniture company. I don't know what I'm doing, and I'll be honest with you along the way on how I figure all this stuff out. I hope that you'll continue to follow along. If you're not a subscriber yet, I hope that you consider subscribing. I don't know what the future looks like quite yet, but I'm excited to show you guys.